we're back. I heard you when you said podcast, the only podcast that you get short and long sleeves on the same day.
That's true. If they are watching this, they can see the first fall sweater arrive in the outfit repertoire.
I was wondering why you, what caused you to make that decision to your wardrobe today?
What caused me to make this decision to my wardrobe today
Yeah.
was the realization that how we present ourselves matters. Now, most people are listening to this and not watching us, but we are online coaches with an online presence. And so how we look actually does matter. And so I was thinking most of the time I am in workout clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And because we train and then shower and then come here and work on a business and put on more workout clothes. That's usually that. And I thought, okay, if I want to level up in confidence and in our business, then what would that look like if I dressed just a little bit more professionally, a little bit more curated? And that was the thought behind it of, while I'm navigating this whole body transformation, I don't want to invest in a lot of pieces. So, because that's silly. Why would you spend a lot of money for things not to fit again?
Right.
So everything in my closet currently fits, but I've had it for a really long time. And I'm like, worn that t-shirt 612 times. This is exciting. And so I was like, okay, what can I do? So I started my Rent the Runway subscription again. And I was like, okay, I can look cute for my husband, like when we go on our weekly dates, or I say for church, but I don't really care what I look like for church, but my husband likes when I look really cute. And he's like, this is my wife. So makes him really excited. And then sometimes people talk to me, but sometimes not, which is never really the goal. Anyway, that was a long answer to why I have a sweater on today. It was the intentional curation of leveling up.
But it was just the right amount of green to get people to not talk to you. Makes you look professional, but they're like, I don't know.
Well, other than when I go to Brookshire's later today, you are the only person who's seeing me.
That's true. Other than clients. Yeah.
Or the people who watch this on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, we always encourage everybody to watch the video version. We try to improve as much as we can. I've been looking into some external cameras, try to get us a little bit more clarity, maybe a different angle, something like that. But that's a lot less important than the other projects that we have going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of that coin, okay, I did not take any of those things into account when I chose this shirt today. Okay.
You really do like that shirt.
Well, there's two reasons I like this shirt. Number one, it has an American flag and a bald eagle on the back of it. Mm-hmm. It says all or nothing. Actually, yeah, the eagle's on the front too. It says all or nothing. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, it makes my arms look really good.
Does it?
So I appreciate that. That's kind of a me for me type thing. Plus, I recognize this today. You see these little like V slits in it?
Yeah.
I thought I ripped it. I literally thought, I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck did I do to it to rip it like that? So perfectly. It looks like it's like a perfect rip. Okay, but no.
That's how they made the shirt?
It's on both sides. They made the shirt with a small rip in the bottom. Not rip, but like purposeful break in the bottom to allow for your arm to flex in it.
For the gun show to show up?
For the gun show. I was like, man, that's actually, and they're not even I don't know, they're a clothing brand, like as their main thing. They might just be like part of their advertising or part of their, whatever. But yeah, so cool shirt. Arms looked good. Arms felt good.
I like when you say nice things about yourself too.
Doing Squattober.
Are we going to talk about Squattober?
Let's talk about Squattober. So Sorinex, the equipment manufacturer, has they always partner with a guy who used to be a strength and conditioning coach, and he has a business called Pen and Paper Strength App, and so they put out this Squattober program for free on their Instagram. So if you're listening to this in a couple days, I'm sure, then you can go to Sore Neck Squattober or Pen and Paper Strength app, either one, and find that whatever day it's on and all the days previous. And he has the best characters, like the little squatting pumpkin guys and like the jacked Jasons and the Michael Myers from Halloween, like, you know, shoulder pressing or something like that. He has all the good like Halloween characters just like getting jacked. So that's also a really cool part of it. The animations are really cool, and he's super funny when he writes like the recovery on the bottom of the program or the warm up, right? Like the recovery is like, yesterday it was chicken and dumplings, extra chicken.
Here's how you know if you want to do Squattober alongside of us. We are, if you haven't noticed, slightly sarcastic in nature and very playful. And so if you are slightly sarcastic and playful and sometimes have the humor of a 12-year-old boy and want to increase your squat, then you should do Squattober. Now, if you are way too serious and jacked up Halloween characters cause you offense and you're easily offended, don't do Squattober.
You should turn off this podcast right now.
Stop listening, unsubscribe.
Yep, please. And don't follow us on social media. But the caveat there is that, you know, if you take Squattober seriously, you might not be able to fit into your pants because you might have a juicy dumper by the end of it.
Oh, okay. Truthfully, juicy dumpers take more than 30 days.
That's true. But also,
you could be one step closer to a juicy dumper.
Could be not true.
Could be not true?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could be closer. You could just be jacked. I mean, warning, you might actually gain some muscle on this program.
Oh my gosh.
Also, too, it's not just squats. So the main, like the bulk of the program, it has to do around squatting and the squatting pattern. But it also includes deadlifts. It also includes bench press. It also includes, you know, basically a full body stimulus. But like the main movement at the beginning of every workout is a squat, you know, of some way, shape, or form. So, yes, it's not just like, oh, all we're going to do is squats and lunges and step ups and all that kind of stuff. It's not just that. It's not just like a crap ton of leg volume. But every day is squat day in Squattober. So
I was thinking of all the ways that people can describe us as coaches. The new one will be like, oh, you mean those two with the juicy dumpers? You're welcome, Squattober.
Well, I mean, that one might be at the bottom of the list.
Bottom of the list? Well, it's not the thing we pride ourselves on the most.
Right. Speak for yourself. No. But on a more serious note, but not too serious for the people who might have turned off the podcast already, because we want to keep the people who didn't turn off the podcast around because they laughed, right? Is that we wanted to take the podcast today and really get in depth about what we do at Fortify Health Coaching, which is what me and Stacy actually do. We don't just talk to each other on a podcast and let you guys laugh and hear our hilarious banter. But what we do, who we do it for, a little bit of how we do it, those types of things, so that not only is this a resource for anybody who really wants to investigate Fortify Health Coaching as a potential solution for their, you know, whatever they're facing, but also as a way for us to start the conversation around the things that we do really well. Right. And we had this conversation prior to recording the podcast, is that Stacy does a really good job on her social media of telling a story, and it's a collective, you know, iterative story. It's a combination of stories. It's a timeline, right? And there's always an ask at the end of the post, or like a call to action or whatever, however you want to say that, where you're inviting people to be like, hey, if this sounds like you, let's talk, because we have a similar story, and there's probably things that you know that I don't know, and that I know that you don't know. And then, hey, if we exchange information, like if we talk to each other about our stories, we could both learn something, right? And it's less of a, hey, I'm the authority on this, and you should listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. And, I've got jacked up trauma for 15 years now or whatever it is.
It went to Squattober repeatedly. My trauma squats deep.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Deep knee bends on the trauma side.
Heavy load. There was no deload week. There was deload years. Sorry.
You're going to derail the entire podcast. That's you're destined to. But also the invitation to come and share your story with us, and whether you want us to coach you, or you want to get involved in anything we do, or you want to be a part of the community of people that we are trying to bring together, your page has always been a really good place for people to not only understand like us as a dynamic as a company, but you as a storyteller and kind of how you've been, like what you've done up to this point.
Well, first, thank you. And the thing I want to add to that before we get into who we are is that my page is really designed for people to be like seen and understood and be like, oh my gosh, somebody out there, me too. And so though it is a catalyst for our business, that's not actually my goal in when I post things. I really just want to talk to people and let them know that they're not alone in their story. And yeah, I might have a solution. We might be that solution. But also there could be solutions outside of us that just aren't talked about. Because truth be told, I am the person who talks about everything that everybody else is afraid to talk about, and not much moves me when we talk about it. And so my whole goal, and I want to do it better, because there is this difference between vulnerability and transparency. And I'm pretty freaking transparent. In all honesty, I'm not very vulnerable on social media. I think I'm working on getting better, but it is a process of taking down the brick and mortar a little bit at a time. Definitely transparent, but not as vulnerable. And that's just a balance of how much do you want to share and what's safe to share. And, once it's out there, it's not out there. And then I have vulnerability remorse. And even on this podcast a little bit, I'm like, I can't believe I said that. And can we take it back? And neither here nor there. So yes, if you are listening to this and you follow me on social media, my goal is always to have a conversation that makes you feel more supported when you leave. In every interaction, in a DM or even with clients, I want people to feel better after leaving a conversation with me than before they walked in the room, whether that room is virtual or a DM or in person. I want to be able to leave people with something that is like a breath of fresh air, and they have just a little bit more endurance to do the next thing that's in front of them.
And then what I'm working on doing a better job at, because I basically let you handle most of the social up to in the last couple months, is talking a lot more about stress management as a shorthand way of saying it. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways to say the same thing, but talking a lot more on the stress side of things and debunking a lot of the things that people just commonly think of, like, oh, I don't feel stress, like my job's not stressful, or my life's not stressful, or my family's not stressful, or whatever. Yet when we look at their internal health metrics, like they become our client, we run labs or whatever it is, we're like, okay, well, your body doesn't agree with what your mind says, right? And there is a difference in those things in terms of your body. Your mind is very adaptable. It gets used to whatever it's exposed to, right? Like if if you go outside and there's always water falling from the sky, you just assume that it rains every day, right? But what you don't know is that there's a guy on your roof just throwing water off the roof, right? It's not actually raining. It's just your mind just believes it's raining because that's all there is to do, right?
So true.
But and maybe that was a terrible example, but at the end of the day, your mind can get adapted to any circumstance that you find yourself in with enough exposure, with enough time, all that type of stuff. But your body keeps the score, as we like to say, not to reference the book, but your body doesn't let go of things that it's experienced in the past very easily, and it always leaves a mark. Nobody gets out unscathed. So we can tell that through symptom assessment, like taking different metrics of labs, like I mean, you can even see it. You can even see it in the way people move, like in a yoga practice and stuff like that, because you're experienced at watching it.
Oh, I don't even need to see people move. I can watch people when they breathe.
Right. Okay.
Somebody could just sit there and breathe, and I'm like, I could pretty much tell you their whole story just by watching. Which is, it does make me sound like a CIA operative right now. I'm not. But before we get into
Sounds exactly like something a CIA operative would say.
that they're not a CIA operative.
Yeah. That's the first thing they would say. You know what? I don't work for the FBI.
I don't work for the FBI. This is all a cover. Why did she move to Texas?
Why did she wear the green sweater? Cover.
What is it called? The protection program?
Yeah, witness protection.
Witness protection.
Yeah.
Is that we are not doctors or therapists, and we don't play them on the internet. So when you, or anywhere else for that matter, not at the park or at Starbucks or anywhere else we go, not in the gym when it's Squattober. I say that because when we start to talk about what we do and how we do it, we do use a lot of those metrics to assess as detectives for information to create a structured plan, but we aren't doctors. We have access to doctors, and we encourage you, should you listen to this and be like, oh, I want more information, to use your medical providers and your therapist, but this isn't for that, and that's not the role that we play in our clients' lives.
Exactly. So let's start with how we say what we do in a very simple way, right? So if you were to meet Stacy and I on the street, so to speak,
also, if you do that, say hi. Don't be a weirdo and just stare at us
on the mean streets of Salina, Texas. Then we say that, quite simply, we create quality patterns to enhance health and adapt to life. Okay, so we're going to break that down a little bit. Let's talk about a little bit about what that means, because it's, not giant words by any means, but I mean, there's some nuance there, and people could misinterpret, whatever. They can hear what they want to hear, but we want to make sure that there's basically three big components of that statement of creating quality patterns to enhance health and adapt to life. That is the what of what we do, right, in a nutshell, because there's a lot of nuanced pieces to the journey that we walk with people, the path that we lay forward, and it would be impossible to try to talk about that, to try to say that in something that doesn't take you less than 30 seconds. It would take forever. It'd be like
especially me.
Yeah, it'd be a real long run. Yeah, especially you. Lots of words. No, just kidding.
You're not, though. It's true. We're working on it.
I'm kidding on the exaggeration. Okay, it's a lot of words, but not lots of words.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So when we say creating quality patterns, what we mean is that we're trying to shift the way that people think so that we can encourage some new behavior. So, for example, when people come to us with the, maybe what their typical, like what your typical person on the internet is going to talk about when they talk about making your fitness, like increasing your fitness level, right? Is like, okay, well, you need to move your body intentionally more often, right? So if you don't go to the gym, it might be a good idea to start going to the gym. It might be a good idea to start drinking more water. It might be a good idea to start eating more protein. It might be a good idea to start eating more fiber, right? Things of that nature. And all these things are definitely true. Typically the problem with people is that they go, okay, well, first of all, how do I do that? Like, what's the plan for that? And there's a lot of hows out there, so you don't even need a person to tell you. You can go on ChatGPT and be like, how do I eat more protein? And it's going to give you an answer. But it's shifting the way that you think to encourage the behavior of eating more protein. Okay, because if you don't understand, like, why, let's say for starters, why you're eating more protein, or if you previously had an eating disorder, or previously have some type of aversion to meat for whatever reason, which is like the majority of where like proteins, like quality proteins, are going to come from, then you're going to sit there kind of stuck in this cycle of like, why is it so hard for me to eat 150 grams of protein or whatever it is, right? Like, wow, that's a lot of protein. That's what people literally, I would be rich if I had a dime for every time somebody's like, wow, that's a lot of protein. Yeah, that's a lot of protein. I actually saw a post the other day. It's like just like a Twitter post, and somebody said, I didn't realize how much of my adult life would be spent thinking about protein. And so
agreed. Agreed.
to get you to um, create better quality patterns. And I'm just using protein as an example. We have to start to understand, well, how did you get there in the first place? Like, why do you have an aversion to meat if that's your thing, right? Like, is it a principle thing? Do you just not like the texture? Did your mom force you to finish your plate every day when you were growing up? Like, I don't know, right? And so we start to navigate, and that's just a simple example because there's a lot more complex things that go on in terms of like trying to create better quality patterns in your life. And these, I'm using a behavior example, but the thinking is the pattern of thinking is really what we go really, really specific on with people. And we usually do that through helping them start to like rewrite their internal narrative, so to speak.
Yeah, I think about, just to balance out the perspective of all people heard was protein. One of the biggest things that I've talked to people about is the difference between having fat and being fat, which impacts every piece of their life. And so, yeah, we definitely do change that narrative, that getting somebody into a pattern of eating at all is something we do, because we usually attract people who don't eat because their stress level is so high, and who believe they're fat, not that they have fat. So changing that pattern is one of the main things we do.
And so changing the pattern to enhance your health. So when we say enhance health, what we really mean by that is like using internal and external metrics. We're going to improve those metrics to improve the mental and physical well-being. Okay. So the simple version of that is, if you can see it on a lab test of any testing of any sort, right? Kind of objective testing, we'll say. And you can see it in the way that you think about yourself, like in the way that your mental dialogue is progressing, right? Like if you can notice a significant shift in those reactions and those stories that you tell yourself, then that is what we mean by enhance your health. Because the people that we work with mainly are people who can't lose weight for one reason or another, right? Like they're the master dieter, but for some reason they have stopped being able to figure out that equation, right? Females with cycle issues or perimenopausal, menopausal, right? Like if you're a menstruating female, maybe you have, I don't know, PCOS or amenorrhea, like having gotten a cycle in a while, or irregular patterns of those, right? Or if you're menopausal, helping you navigate that change. We also work with people who are typically like your overstressed, underslept individual, right? Most people like to describe this as like an executive type person, or like a person who has a high stress job or lots of responsibilities. But this could be as simple as like a mom with a few kids, right? Overstressed and underslept. That's pretty easy. It's actually really easy to do in our day and age, and you don't even have to get paid. You're not even getting paid 6 or 7 figures to do it.
Gosh, if I could have gotten paid 6 or 7 figures to raise 6 children, dang. Where was that job?
Well, we sure wouldn't have started a company, that's for sure. You'd have been like, I'm good out here in California.
Yeah. No, that entrepreneurial spirit in me is it's too fierce.
But the people who have chronic gut issues too, are that ends up being another kind of bucket of people that we get, and a lot of those are intertwined, right? Overstress, underslept, typically exacerbates or leads to things that were already underlying as far as gut issues, right? And cycle issues, and a lot of those things are intertwined. But yeah, that's kind of describes who we work with to a large part, and so we work on those specific metrics within the problem that they're bringing to us to enhance their health. And not everybody it's losing weight. Some people it's, I don't eat, like you just mentioned too, like I don't eat enough. So for the amount that I want to move, for the things that I want to do, and spoiler alert, you have to eat food if you want energy. So
we eating for October. It's October for Squattober. We're eating. I also think like what's worth being said is that we get to work with people who have tried everything else and don't have answers. By the time somebody comes to us, they're usually exasperated and have spent so much money trying to solve these problems another way, and they haven't been validated, they haven't been seen, and they have no answers. And I think what's really good about us is that we have like the personal relationship and trust between us, and that we're mostly easy to trust as people, but then we get to be professional in what we do in our own regards is at the peak of our industry. And so there's a lot of trust built. Like, we have done this repeatedly to get people results, but it's usually not people who are like, oh my gosh, I just started having cycle issues, or, oh, this is the first time I haven't lost weight. No, they haven't been able to lose weight for years. They haven't slept for years. They have had cycle issues probably the entirety of their life, and their doctor just medicated it or tried to manage it in a way that mitigated some symptoms, but it didn't make them better. So if that's you, you're not alone. We've got a bunch of you. And there's support for that.
Well, and we are you in certain ways, right? Like there's aspects of those problems that we have had to overcome ourselves, right?
Oh,
I mean,
me?
I'm currently still coaching you through that, right? In terms of,
Wait, which one don't we have? We don't have on the list of our 3 things cycle issues.
No, you do.
I do.
Yeah, you do. You just don't think it's normal. You think it's normal.
Denial.
Yeah, I've seen enough data and evidence of like, oh, hey, like I don't want to eat, or all I want to do is eat, or like this is really painful, or da 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 da. Like, yeah, it's more like symptom management with you. It's not like I haven't had a cycle in a long time, but
move down the street from your best friend. They said, build a business, show all the things that you never wanted anybody to watch.
Hey, I can't help now. All 20 people who listen to the podcast, they're going to know about Stacy's, menstrual cycle.
Oh, who cares? That's the least invasive thing. That's not vulnerable at all. That is transparent. You may tell them whatever you want.
But yes, we are in search of those people, of the quote unquote the hard cases. If you're in the coaching industry, probably describe it as that. And I actually will go so far as to say we're not into the people who like 6, 8, 10-week challenges.
Do not come to me.
I'm not into those people, and here's why.
It's not that we don't care for you and we don't think you're amazing humans. We just don't want to work with you.
Yeah, no, we care about you. That's fine. It's just your idea of what it takes to get a result that is permanent or that is sustainable, or however you want to describe that, a result that lasts longer than the 3 to 6 months that you might be able to maintain those behaviors. That's not what we're into. No, we keep people for at minimum a year. I can't think of nobody that we've coached together have we coached really less than a year, like especially since we've been doing this on our own. But like very few people that we've ever coached together have been less than a year, and nobody that I know of has been less than 6 months for sure.
Oh gosh, no.
And I'm not saying that every problem that we solve takes more than 6 months to solve. That's not the case. We can solve it faster than that. Like it's not about not having a timeline. It's more, or like a certain timeline, like, oh, this can be done in 6 months. This can be done in a year. It's more about, yes, we can provide you a solution. How long are you willing to continue doing the thing that we asked you to do?
Behavior takes longer to change than protocols.
Exactly. What was the Hippocrates quote I sent you today?
Oh, let me look it up. That was a great quote you sent me earlier today.
That would be perfect for this.
Says, before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up the things that made him sick.
Right. So most people that I've come into contact into the short-change stuff are not willing to give up those things. They're willing to act different temporarily, to be like, oh, before the holidays, I'd like to lose 10 pounds, or, before my summer vacation, it would be great to be able to fit into this swimsuit or whatever it is. Right. And that's a great, I want to be clear. I'm not saying those things aren't good. Those things are good. That's not what we do.
That's not what we do.
Those things are great to get you moving in the right direction. We typically don't get those, right? We get people who are like you said, I've done every challenge you can think of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've done every program that you can think of. And I've learned things, hopefully, from every one of those programs, right? I've learned about myself, or I've learned things that don't work so well for me, or what have you. But the problem is every time you don't sustain something that you worked hard for, you get a little bit less confident that you can do it again. And that's the problem. And that's where we differ is we go a lot into we don't assume you're healthy enough to lose weight. We actually go into making you more resilient from a mental and stress resiliency standpoint first,
Mm-hmm.
before we start to take out food or implement some type of resistance training program or whatever the thing. So we're not saying that those principles don't work. Absolutely. That is literally the only ways to get the physique that you want. Is you have to train, and you have to, eat a little bit less than energy you use, right? That's a calorie deficit. That's how you lose weight. That's how you right? But also, if you do that for too long, you're going to find yourself in this overstressed, underslept type of makeup, so to speak. And then you're going to be wondering like, well, if I go harder, I have less energy. If I eat less, I have less energy. But if I do the opposite of that, then I feel fat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am fat.
I am fat.
Not I have fat. And so I'm in a pickle. What did I do? Right? And then lastly, because we've gotten a little bit off of the statement, so creating quality patterns to enhance health and adapt to life. Adapting to life for us, and this is something that you're really good at riffing on, so I'm gonna pass you the mic. Ability to handle incoming stressors so that you make progress and create a new foundation. Now, yes, I'm reading that off of some brainstorming that we had earlier, but the more simple way to say that is when we say adapt to life, before you came to us, life was lifing, and after you leave us, life will still be lifing.
Life's gonna life.
Okay. What you face in the year to 2 years to 4 years to however long, you want to be in our sphere of influence. What you face then is all good and well, and that's going to be really good reps, but it's not going to be the same thing that you face 4 years after that, 10 years after that, whatever, right? Or the year after that. Things happen all the time, right? And so our goal is to try to give you enough cushion, like enough threshold tolerance to be able to go, this sucks, this is hard. However, I've got the tools, I've got the resources, and I've got the mentality, probably most important, the central nervous system, like the resilience, to be able to respond to this instead of react to this.
And that it really is the thing that differentiates us from really the industry, is that we're really nervous system focused on how to get the nervous system to behave in a baseline fashion. And everybody's going to have a different baseline depending on all of their life experiences, the stress that you're under, and all of that. But the goal is that when we talk about adapting to life, is creating an environment for your nervous system to move out of that fight or flight response so that your body is not in survival mode all the time. And when your body is not in survival mode, then you can train your mind not to be in survival mode as well and see the physical adaptations, because everybody still has a physique goal that comes to us.
Yeah.
To see the physical adaptations that they want in really the physique piece. The things we mentioned earlier, like the inability to lose weight and the cycle issues, and especially the chronic GI issues, those are the pain points. At that point, people are like, yeah, I want a better physique, but that's not the big ouch. That's the secondary reason that everybody wants that, but it's solving these other problems. And to do that, we need a nervous system that functions outside of survival mode. And that is what we talk about, being able to adapt to life. There will always be some inbound stressor that you were not expecting. And we equip you to handle it better. Not perfectly, but better than you previously did. That maybe it spins you for a day and not a week. Maybe it spins you for an hour and not a day.
Right.
Maybe it's 5 minutes and you're like, what used to be a big deal isn't a big deal. I'm good.
I got the perfect example.
Oh my.
without using any names. So we have a client that we've had for over a year now, and she came to us not being able to poop, right?
Mhm.
Terrible GI issues.
Can we just talk about really what not like she didn't poop for days?
Yeah. Like she was, and some of you probably relate to this. Like it wasn't just like, I just kind of do it sometimes. It was like, no, like for days she would not have a bowel movement, right? But she would also have pain in her digestive system when she would eat, or like when she got stressed or whatever. Didn't sleep well at all.
Had spent thousands of dollars on all sorts of holistic treatments and medical treatments to have no answers.
Right. Yeah. Maybe some temporary relief, but nothing
Mhm.
that was moving the needle. And so she was also not able to even really confront her immediate family, like
Mhm.
parents, spouse, whatever, on any particular like disagreement or any subject, right? There was no moving the needle. Like everybody was stuck in their ways and everybody's against me and I don't have the tools to do this and all this other kind of stuff, right? This is, I'm just from what I can remember, over a year ago now. And not only can she poop on a daily basis now, like that was a tough nut to crack for a while, but that's actually the easiest thing that she does at this point.
Mhm.
Regularly, right? Easiest thing regularly, and eat enough food and get enough sleep. But she's gone from not even being able to talk about issues in an effective way with her family to taking on
The
government entities about injustices that are being done in her jurisdiction because they're blocking her and her family's ability to develop a piece of ground, right? To build a house on a piece of ground, and they're giving them the runaround and all this other kind of stuff that they have to pay for and XYZ.
On a Senate level, correct?
Right. Yeah. On a state level. On
Yeah.
a state level. She's
Yes.
going to that would be federal level, but she's going to the state level.
That's correct.
Right. And taking on the system, as it were, with like from her own she was the catalyst for that. We weren't like, hey, you should go talk to your governor or whatever, right? It was whatever the conversations evolved, and so that's what I'm talking about in terms of change, like, or that's what we're talking about in terms of this is how we literally change people's lives in terms of like, yeah, you came to us, you couldn't poop, and now you can poop, and that's great, right? Because that's important for a lot of things, and we joke about that because we literally talk about bowel movements with everybody that we work with because we think it's very important. But the part that's very hard, you're never going to get that in a progress picture or an assessment sheet or a whatever, that she literally has her mental makeup is different.
She's a completely different person.
She's a completely different person. Even her, like the way that she presents when we talk to her on a Zoom call, right? Like just her posture, her smile, like what she's doing with her hair.
Oh
like
my gosh.
how she runs her business and
her even facial structure. Because I don't think her weight is much different than when she started with us. And we went back last week and looked at a video almost from a year ago and then a picture she had just posted. And she doesn't even look like the same person. Like her identity is completely different and it's confident and it's more whole. And those are the things that are true. They don't show up in a progress picture. And that I think is the challenging part in our industry is everybody wants to see a before and after. And we just have people continually in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they don't have physical results. They take longer because we are looking at the whole picture of humanity, not an 8-week challenge.
Right.
Not something sexy and sensational of I'm going to come work with Stacy and Justin and, going to be rocking my vacation body in, February. If you want that vacation body, start for next summer now. Okay, don't wait.
Start with squat tuber.
It takes time because the patterns you've created in your life take time to unpattern.
Yeah. Or just to repattern, really. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get you to do something that you are already in a habit of doing, but we can introduce you to a new way of doing something so that pattern becomes the thing that you prefer and not the old pattern, right? Me and you both know that there is no such thing as stopping something. There's only starting something new, different, better. And that's what we mean by creating a quality pattern. And so to kind of, you know, put a bow on this discussion, the how and what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this on previous podcasts. So you can go back to the awareness, intention, execution podcast, because that's really the structure of how we have conversations, or how we build a path for people. Is we bring awareness to what their life patterns are. Now, a lot of people come to us are fairly aware of their shortfalls, right? They're fairly aware of like, well, I can't lose weight because I eat too many carbs or something like that. That's probably not even true, but they're fairly aware of what they believe to be their problems. But we're creating awareness to like overall life patterns. Like when this happens, you tend to do this, right? Or when you're missing this tends to happen. And so we're just creating awareness to those patterns so that we can start to enhance that pattern, right, with them. It's cooperative. It's a cooperative thing. So if you're not willing to play ball, nothing's going to change, right? It's like it's what the quote says. First, ask: are you willing to stop doing the things that made you sick? Are you willing? And this this was like a conversation that you started to have with yourself. Is like, am I willing to not try to fight so hard for everything, so that I can actually keep it, right?
Yeah.
You can't keep what you're not willing to give away, right?
It's a conversation I have with myself every time we train now.
And here you are improving an injury that's been lingering for months or longer than that. It's really probably been underlying longer than that. It just manifested in an elbow problem, right? And like tennis elbow.
Yeah.
And so we help create those awareness of life patterns, but we also give you structure, right? It's not like, hey, look, this is jacked up.
Good luck with that.
Yep, good luck fixing it. No, we give you some structure to be able to have new thoughts. Like I said, you can't stop old thoughts, but you can start to think new thoughts. And we help to take those thoughts and turn them into more consistent and more beneficial actions. And again, this is not like sexy stuff. This is really, I mean, I don't want to use the word basic, but it's really fundamental stuff that people already think they kind of take for granted, right?
We actually are kind of boring. I mean, we think we're not.
I mean, until your life is better.
Until you poop every day.
Yeah.
Until you're taking on the government. Until I give you baby weights and people wearing leg warmers. Until I call you can't be Kevin Costner no more. You got to be Whitney Houston.
That you're taking on the government. That's my favorite part. And
my podcast gets flagged.
Yeah. Well, there's certain words that I'm trying not to use because the transcript's going to be like, this podcast is,
You're gonna call me ahead of time.
Yeah. Anyway, so we also support you, mind and body, with the tools and the systems, so to speak, that you can continue to use to carry on past our time together, or during our time together in your own specific way. So, for example, we've talked about the flush on here before, right? There's a lot of things that people learn in the flush about how to live in a more, I'm going to say, anti-inflammatory lifestyle. That sounds a little bit like hokey, but to live in a way that doesn't upset their body. Like to live in a way that's like, okay, well, first of all, there's no good or bad foods. What humans do to food is either good or bad. But the things that they didn't even know were maybe holding them back a little bit, like stealing their energy or slowing down their digestion or causing cycle issues, or like pushing a rock uphill, like pushing a boulder uphill. They start to learn those things as we take them through a few functional protocols to be like, okay, well, you've thought a lot about how much protein you're eating and your calorie deficits and carb cycling and what days you do HIIT training and what days you don't. You've thought a lot about that and you understand those techniques. But do you understand what causes you inflammation, like you personally? Do you understand what actually gives you like more gas and what causes you not to have gas? Do you understand how many times you probably need to chew your food before you just shovel it in? talking to myself on that one.
I was wondering, Kim, like, as you're talking, I'm like, me at Maggiano's. Paid for that meal for 3 days.
Just hammering out the pasta at Maggiano's, huh?
It was pasta with like a Chardonnay cream sauce.
Oh,
It was
there you
the
go.
worst idea. Let's have excessive amounts of gluten and dairy at 11 o'clock at night. And then let's throw some tiramisu on top of that with a smoked old fashioned. It was one of the worst decisions, food wise, I have probably made in a year. And I understand that because the pain of that decision will live on for about another year.
No, it was great while you were doing it.
Oh, it was amazing while I did it.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to pay for it. Neither here nor there. That is really the house. So as we end this episode, what are we really asking of people?
So I think our constant ask is for people to get curious about what is possible for them, right? Get curious about, do you have like underlying health issues that you kind of been ignoring in pursuit of, a couple diets a year, right? Because you know that it's going to take longer, it's going to take more legwork to solve an underlying issue than it is for that 4, 6, 8 weeks where you can lose a couple pounds and feel happy with yourself for the next 4, 6, 8 weeks until you're not. And then it's just this revolving door of diet and confusion and frustration and all that kind of stuff. So I think our ask is to, if you do have one of those things that we described, right? Like if you consistently struggle with cycle issues as a woman, if, you found yourself unable to lose weight, and I mean like really unable to lose weight, not like, oh, well, I don't want to track my food, so, I'm accepting where I'm at. That's fine. Like, I'm good with that. But at the end of the day, and we don't ask everybody to track their food, but at the end of the day, like if you haven't taken it seriously enough to know if you can or can't, then you really maybe have not pulled out all the stops to the point where
I'm going to add this because this is a version of me, right? Where you do everything right and you can't outwork the response to see the needle move
for long enough.
And so that was you and I when it was like, holy crap, can't work harder than she's working, can't fuel differently than she's fueling. We actually need to look at a different solution. There's a bigger problem going on here, which is what sparked our curiosity. Because, I mean, I will work as hard as you allow now, as how much you allowed me to work. Before you weren't there and you can see me. So I just kind of did whatever I wanted in times 2. Now, though, that we've pulled the reins in, that's what we're talking about. You know if you're doing the work or not doing the work. Like, and if you have a conversation with us, I'll know if you're doing the work, regardless of what you tell us.
Right.
I'd say my ask is really just to have a conversation with us. Like, the more people we get to talk to, the more fulfilling our job is. Like, the more fulfilling this whole story that we're creating in our own lives is that we did this to be able to help people, first and foremost. Like, is it the way that we make money? Yes. Is this the way we get to spend more time with our families? Absolutely.
Right.
Do we get to have the most fun doing it together? Absolutely. But we just want to, like, I'll talk to you, which is so funny to me that online I will talk to anybody, but in person, I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere and talk to people. But online, I'll be like, I'll talk to you all day long.
Well, if those people came to like sit with you, like sit in front of you, you didn't have to go anywhere, would you still talk to them?
I would. And if it was like 1 or 2 at a time,
yeah,
I would absolutely talk
not
to
a group
them.
of it. Yeah, I mean,
It's
that gets tough.
That group of people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love this episode.
Yeah, no, I think this is good stuff. So, creating quality patterns to enhance your health and help you adapt to life. That is what we do. Okay?
That's what we do.
And if any of that stuff speaks to you, just like Stacey said, have a conversation with us, right? Our Instagram handles are in the description of every episode. That's the easiest way to get in touch with us, right? There's I believe my landing page is in there right now, but we're coming with a landing page that's a little bit more of a company specific landing page to it'll probably have this podcast episode linked to it to say, hey, this is exactly what we do, right? And this is who we help, and this is pretty much how we do it in a nutshell. And if you want to come and try us out, right? We're constantly trying to create solutions for people at all levels, right? We dual coach everybody. So understand that we both coach every person that we work with.
Yeah, you just can't have one of us, sorry.
And so that maybe is a high investment for some people, just depending on, what you're working with financially. But we also create solutions for people that maybe can't afford to do it two to one with us. And we also are creating a community of like-minded people to where when you have questions, there are answers provided, or when there's stuff in there that you didn't even know that you wanted to know, but now that you know it, you want to know more, right? That type of stuff with the functional health world. Because I can tell you this right now, the days of having someone just change your macros as a dieting approach, they're still there, but they're slowly and surely disappearing, because as the world evolves, food evolves, people get more stressed, people sleep less, people's devices have more of a chokehold on them, right? And unless you are providing a solution to almost every aspect of that and helping people get a sustainable and I would say permanent way out, at least adapting them with tools that they believe in, then you're not going to be around for long.
No.
So the way that the health and fitness industry in the world is heading is more specificity. If you haven't seen like everything you do on the internet, like it knows what you're thinking, right? So like marketing is very specific nowadays, and also it's getting more. It's going deeper, right? So it's getting more specific, and it's getting deeper into, okay, what's the root of the problem? And we take a root cause approach. And so I think that's the message we try to send.
I love it. I'm so thankful we get to.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, y'all have a conversation if you need to, and we'll catch you on the next episode.